Okay, so you find that tan packet, and what I want you to do is I want you to flip to where you see day 2. There's a day 1. Keep flipping. There we go. Find where it says day 2. And actually, we're not going to do the inequality. Do you need the inequality refresher?
No.
I don't think so. So go to where you see this. It says exploration. Okay, after day 2, you're going to skip the refresher, and we're going to go on to the next side. All right, we're going to move now to inequalities, but we're going to use the isolate, separate, solve, but with inequalities. So it's really neat. But we're going to explore why it is what it is. If I have the absolute value of x is less than 3, I want you to put a 3 on the number line and a negative 3. Because it's strictly less than, it can't be 3 or negative 3. And what we're going to do, when we put 2 numbers on the number line, it splits it into 3 regions. I've got a left region, a middle region, and a right region. And what we're going to do is we're going to test the regions. So let's pick 4. And if I go to the absolute value of 4 is less than 3, that simplifies to 4 less than 3. Is that true or false?
False.
That's false. So there's no solution there. We're going to pick a number between negative 3 and 3. Let's pick 0 because that's a nice number. If I do 0 is less than 3, that's true. That means any number between negative 3 and 3 would work. Okay? Any number would work. Let's try over here. Absolute value, negative 4. Is 4 less than 3? That's false. So let me show you how you write what we got on the number line. That says x is bigger than negative 3 and x is less than 3. Okay, this is saying x is greater than 3. You remember our ands and our ors, and we said row your boat with the ors. And is the in-between. Now let's do the next exploration. Let's put, I'm going to pick a new color. So let's put negative 2 and 2. They're open circles. When would the circles be closed? What would I need?
Greater than
or equal to, okay? The or equal to. Greater than or equal to, less than or equal to. So let's test. And let me pause a moment and see if you can do the test yourself. Pick a number to the right of 2 and plug it in here. Put true or false. If it's true, shade it. If it's false, don't shade it. Okay, you test each region. Let's see what you come up with. When I tested, I got over here, and I got over here. Did you guys get that? Yeah. Okay, so the way we write that is x is less than negative 2, or, remember, row your boat, or. So here's the big idea. Okay, I want you to pause here a moment, and I really need you to think about this, and you guys, it's critical that you are reading through your notes and looking at them, thinking about them. You might even want to make index cards. The big idea here is if you have an absolute value with a less than is an and. Now this is not with regular, but just absolute value. If I have absolute value with a greater, and I'm going to say that in a silly way, absolute value greater is an or. All right, so that's the big idea. Absolute value less than and absolute value greater is an or. But what I want you to do is above problem 4, I want you to write isolate, separate, and solve. And we do that with absolute value equations, and we do it with absolute value inequalities. You always have to isolate or get it by itself. So if you look at problem 4, this is a less than. A less than is an and. So watch what you do. You write 2x minus 1 less than 5, and you flip and negate. And I want you to go, like you might be saying, okay, why? Why did that happen? Come back up here and look. When I did the less than, it was x less than 3, it was flip negate, because that's what happens on the graph. When I do the greater, it's x greater than 2, flip negate. Now this is only with absolute value inequalities. So let me pause a moment, and you remember we practiced this in like 1.3.
Excuse me, sorry, is there a black homework? It's just homework on it. Black folder, kind of like his.
Was it left in this room?
What was left in this room?
I don't see it.
Nope. Okay, sorry. It's okay.
I don't see one. Go ahead and solve those, and it's an and, so your and should be an in between. So on my first piece, I'm getting x less than 3. Now I'm going to go do the other piece. When do we flip the symbols? Like when you're solving? When you multiply or divide by a negative. So I didn't do that. I didn't do that here. So now I'm going to plop -2 and 3 on, and is in between. In interval notation, that's parenthesis, -2, comma, 3. All right, on the count of 3, I want you guys to say isolate, separate, solve with me. 1, 2, 3. Isolate, separate, solve. Again. Isolate, separate, solve. One more time. Isolate, separate, solve. I want you to do that in B. This is still a less than, but it's a less than or equal to. So the only thing that's going to change is a closed circle and with brackets. So you guys try B. See how far you can get on your own. So check your papers here. You're going to flip negate for the other one, but the inside of the absolute value never ever changes, okay? That never changes. So I'm getting 3x less than or equal to 12, divide by 3. So your first inequality should be x less than or equal to 4. Adding 4 and divide by 3, I get x greater than or equal to -4/3. So on my number line, I'm going to put a 4 and a -4/3. These are closed. A less than is an and. So it's bracket -4/3, comma, Alright, so what you guys have to remember, and I'm going to show you something here, it's kind of silly, but I want you to write down GOLA. Okay, write down GOLA. I'm thinking of goals, but it's GOLA. Greater is or, less than and. You know, it's just silly, but it might help. GOLA. Greater is or, less than is and. Alright, any questions so far? Alright, when you're ready, let's go to problem 5. Now this, I'm going to do A, then ask you to do B. This one, the inequality symbol is flipped. So this is going to go 2x plus 4 greater than or equal to 6, or 2x plus 4 less than or equal to negative 6. So GOLA, a greater is an or. But I always isolate, separate, solve. Isolate, separate, solve. So I subtract 4 and get 2x greater than or equal to 2. Divide by 2, x is greater than or equal to 1. Subtracting 4, I get 2x less than or equal to negative 10. Divide by 2, x is less than or equal to negative 5. So I put negative 5 and I put 1. These are closed. Now it says x is greater than 1, so it's going the two pieces. In interval notation, that's negative infinity to negative 5, union, bracket, 1 to infinity. When you're ready, flip the page and do part B. So GOLA, greater or less than and. Isolate, if they're not alone, you have to isolate it. Separate it into the two, but with an inequality, you flip negate. Make sure you put it on a number line and you write the interval notation. Check it at the board. So I got x was greater than 1 or x is less than negative 5. So that's negative infinity to negative 5 parenthesis, union parenthesis 1 to infinity. All right, what questions do you have?